people with liberty and justice for all.
Open the meeting in public comment. Anyone have anything? Seeing none, we will go to the Commissioners' Community Updates. Attended several trainings and several budget discussions last week. That's it.
That's me. I just went to the budget union meeting, taking a pile of phone calls, and otherwise business as usual.
I also attended the trainings, HR meetings. We had our e-government working group, which is working to preserve our burn permits and our over-the-counter tax payments. MBCC, Board of Crime Control, we met a couple of times last week. Youth Justice Council, we met last week. And one other comment, that's all I did for the week. One other comment that I wanted to just bring up in case there's any confusion. There was an article in the paper that said the Broadwater County budget has crashed. I didn't read the article, I didn't see who wrote it, just, that's not even close to true. And I know it's complicated stuff, so I imagine that the reporter was just confused. But the Broadwater County budget did not crash. What we learned last week, and this is all over the state, so if you pick up a newspaper in any community in Montana, you will see the same thing has happened. Centrally assessed is your pipelines, your railroads, your power companies. The Yellowstone pipeline runs through Broadwater County, and what we learned is there was a reduction of 12% tax paid to 1.5 to 3%. We had in this county growth of $17 million. What happened is the centrally assessed for the Yellowstone pipeline encompassed so much property that it offset the $17 million. So we came out of the valuations from Department of Revenue essentially as a flat line. No increase, virtually no increase, $100 per mil. So that doesn't mean that the budget crashed. What it means is we're flatlined, no increase from last year. Where the growth in Broadwater County is an asset is not necessarily to the county's budget because we're capped. 1510-420 says we cannot have more money than a percentage of what was in the budget last year. It's 0.82%. It's a 0.5 plus a formula increase of 0.3. So regardless, the only increase we would see in valuations would be new growth. Without that new growth, we're held to the 1510-420. So where Broadwater County's growth is an asset not to the county but to the citizens is that $17 million in growth will offset what 1510-420 says that taxpayers, property, landowners will pay to get the county to that 0.82% will be reduced. We are shy about $35,000, so all taxpayers in Broadwater County will pick up $35,000 more in their taxes, their property taxes. When you spread it out that wide, it's not going to be a huge hit. When you look at counties like Missoula County or Glacier County, they're talking about $3 million, $700,000 deficits. The county will be made whole based on 1510-420. Those property owners will make up the difference. Not in Broadwater County. Our difference is very small because we had a lot of growth. So the erroneous article, for lack of a better word, in the paper that the budget crashes is nowhere even close to accurate. Any questions on how this works? All right. Thanks, that's all I want. Oh, one more thing I wanted to say is, and we'll bring this up a little bit later, but we talked about the 30 homes that disappeared from Broadwater County, specifically the Wheatland area. You missed quite a meeting, Daryl. Those 30 homes were put with Gallatin County, not for tax purposes. It was the Department of Commerce, and what they did is they took the certified designated place that we developed several in this county, one is Wheatland, and thought it was Gallatin County because there was so much growth. Assumption was, oh, Gallatin County's growing, this must be theirs. So that error is being rectified, but that had nothing to do with our valuations. It was really Yellowstone Pipeline, MRL, and Northwestern Energy, and Blackfoot, and Verizon. So, if you have any questions, I'm happy to speak with anyone one-on-one and get into more depth, or if you have any questions today, I'm open to those too. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Let's see, have minutes here from July 30th. August 1st and August 6th.
I will move to approve those minutes, July 30, August 1, August 6th, as presented.
I'm not in favor of the August 6th minutes,
What?
the August 6th ones.
Okay, so what was there, what's the issue?
Well, the issue is that, the air conditioning and that roof project, I agreed that they're supposed to get some bids on it and pay for the actual cost on those two items. Nothing
Mr.
else.
Chairman, it does say in the motion, the actual cost.
And that's the only portion that would be paid.
That is in the motion.
Where's that at? That's what it says, move to fund the actual cost to replace the HVAC and a portion of the roof underneath.
They didn't say anything about the bids and stuff. Anyway,
That was, Mr. Chairman, that was not part of the actual motion. That was a comment Chairman Slipka made. But the actual motion does state that they will only pay for the actual cost.
So do we need to amend the motion, we just approved July 30th and August 1st then?
I will not accept the friendly amendment. My motion is to accept all three minutes as presented. I've heard nothing as far as a language change. For August 6th, we can't just simply not accept minutes because, and we haven't been told why. So my motion stands.
I'll second the motion to approve all three sets of minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same.
no, I'll go against all three if that's the way it has to be.
Motion carries. They have the claims here in a total of $40,887.61.
I will move to pay the approved claims in the amount of $40,887.61.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to pay claims and set them out. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. have mail here from the Montana Water Rights Litigation Notice for Broadwater County Basin number 411. Public records indicate you may have a financial property or other interest that could be negatively impacted without final approval of the compact. Without the compact, you may lose the ability to irrigate for decades while water court educates Confederate Salish Kootenai tribes' claims.
Thank you.
Have a communication from DIS Technologies for security camera discount, access controls discount, distress button discounts. Promotional products catalog. Accounting department memos for postage meters and West Bank's fuel. See, we will go on to the COS review.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have here a survey to create tracks for agricultural purposes for John and Mary Heineman, north of Springville.
Is that part of the subdivision they were proposing, or what's this again now?
Well, this they're creating agricultural tracks, and then they are considering taking those through the subdivision process. But they want to divide it off of the rest of their land. And then, right now, they'll be just agricultural tracks, or they will have to go through the subdivision process.
And because they're over 20 acres apiece, there isn't the need, even though. they're
Right, no
making it out for
DEQ,
something.
well, and they couldn't have DEQ because, being agricultural purposes, they can be used for nothing but agricultural use with no septic water until they go through a subdivision process.
Okay. I will move to support the boundary relocation for Heinemann's as presented.
Agricultural tracks.
Agricultural tracks, thank you, for Heinemann's as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I did.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve transfer of tracks. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See, Nicole Brown, Community Development Director, Meadows Phase 2, request final plat approval.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm gonna sit close to you because I have some items to pass around. So this is the Meadows Phase 2. This is Brad Campbell's development. He's come back a couple of times for extensions, so we're really happy to have him here to finalize his project.
Welcome. Is this in the way?
No, you're fine. I just don't want to disrupt your tape recorder. So this plat is showing the Meadows Phase 1 as well as Phase 2. So Phase 2 is outlined in the heavier print there. But that just shows the entire development. Phase 1 has been finalized. It's been several years since it's had finals. So. what's coming around first here, this is the final fees. That was not one of the conditions, but I just want you to be able to see that. So condition number 1, plans for sewage treatment and water supply shall be submitted to the Montana Department of Environmental Quality and the Broadwater County Health Department for review and approval. The certificate of subdivision approval shall be filed with the final plat. That's included there in that packet, the DEQ approval. I'm going to go on to number 2 because it's also part of that packet coming around. Number 2, a stormwater drainage plan meeting the requirements of the county subdivision regulations shall be submitted to the county planning department for review and recommendations. So since they went through DEQ, the storm drainage plan is actually a part of that DEQ packet.
I take it all these things you're passing around, all these have been met then?
That's correct.
Okay. This
Indeed.
is just the final part.
Yep, this is just giving you the opportunity to look at it and verify that they've all been met. So number 3, prior to any development and/or soil disturbance, a weed management plan for the proposed development shall be submitted to the county weed district for review and approval. So this weed plan was actually approved May 17th of 2007. Number 4, prior to any development, an approach permit shall be requested from the Montana Department of Transportation for the access point off of Highway 284. So this was actually signed and approved, I believe this is April 2nd, 2007. And then all requirements of the approved permit shall be met.
And since this is with the state, there's no issue with the date, correct, that it's
Right,
2000?
you know, and I've had casual conversations with individuals at MDT about that. I don't have anything in writing, but once it's signed and approved by MDT, there's really nothing after that. They've approved it and moving on.
All right.
Well, the approach is in now anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The only thing that would change that is maybe if they were going to open it up for commercial use, then, you know, heavy commercial use, then maybe they would have to go back through MDT to amend that approach, but as it is now, it can be 20 years old,
All right.
so, or greater, that was just another. Number 5, coming around. All roads must be designed in accordance with the Broadwater County Road Standards, stamped by a professional engineer, and submitted to the County Planning Department for review and approval. A letter from the PE shall be provided to the county stating that the roads and any improvements have been constructed in accordance with the approved plans and specifications, and that he or she has completed an inspection of the roads and any improvements. So you'll actually see there is a letter from Sean Higley, the second half of that packet. That's because Sean Higley was actually the contract planner for the county at the time. So he did review and approve the provided road plans. And then the secondary letter, the one that's actually on top there, that's from the developer's engineer stating that they have been installed according to plans. And I want you to keep that information in your brain because I'm going to bring that up again as item number 9, but I'm not going to pass it back around. So.
All right.
Number 6, this is just a copy of an email from Bernadette here. The applicant will be required to submit the preliminary plat and final plat drawings in electronic format to Broadwater County in ArcGIS, AutoCAD, or MicroStation format. Additional materials may be requested by the county in electronic format to facilitate review of application materials. All digital materials shall be submitted in Montana State Plane Coordinates NAD 83. So that's just showing that those were indeed emailed to me. Number 7, sorry. Plans for the location and installation of individual mailboxes shall be reviewed and approved by the United States Postal Service prior to installation. And I want you to take some time with number 8 here. This is the fire plan. So I'll read the condition, and then I'll explain myself here. So number 8, the applicant and the Fire Protection Authority having jurisdiction shall use their best efforts to draft a fire protection plan specifically for this subdivision in accordance with the Broadwater County subdivision regulations. The plan shall be equally acceptable to the FPAHJ, the applicant, and the county governing authority. The plan shall adequately address the fire risk analysis, all findings of fact, and appropriate mitigation measures. In the event the parties are unable to come to agreement by the final plat submittal, the applicant shall become eligible to provide the per lot cash in lieu fee for water supply as may be defined in the Broadwater County subdivision regulations in effect at the time of submittal. So on the fire plan, the fire chief, Ed Schindel, had requested a well be installed at this location. The developer is choosing the per lot cash in lieu fee of $500, which were the subdivision regulations in effect at the time of submittal. And that will be paid at the time of lot sale.
And can you read that again from the regulations, just so that it's
Mhm.
clear?
Yep. I'm just going to read the last portion of it that talks about the regulations, not the entire condition, correct? Okay. In the event the parties are unable to come to agreement by the final plat submittal, the applicant shall become eligible to provide the per lot cash in lieu fee for water supply as may be defined in the Broadwater County subdivision regulations in effect at the time of submittal. And that is the option that the developer is choosing.
Okay.
And again, the regulations that were in effect at the time of submittal. This was submitted June 7th, 2007. And our regulations at that time provided for the $500 per lot cash in lieu fee. Oh, so 9, coming back to the road documents. Did you have any questions on 8, I guess, before I move on, or do you want to save your questions for the end? Okay. Number 9. The applicant shall complete the following for construction of the internal access roads. A, prior to the construction of any roads or the installation of any utilities, plans for the subject roads shall be submitted to the County Planning Department for review and approval. So you saw that letter from Sean. And 9B, improve the internal access roads to the specifications required by the county subdivision regulations. The plans for the road construction, including stormwater drainage, shall be reviewed and approved by the County Planning Department prior to any construction. An engineer registered in the state of Montana, with concurrence by the County Planning Department, shall certify all improvements as meeting county road standards. And that was the secondary letter from Farron, I believe. So. Number 10, the internal access roads shall be given a unique name that are reviewed and approved by the County Planning Department. The name of the internal access road shall be shown on the face of the final plat and reflected in all documents of the subdivision. So those signs have been ordered. I can verify that. I have an email. They've not been received by my office yet, but as soon as they are, they will be installed. And that's certainly not Brad's fault, just the company I order them from. Sometimes they take 2 weeks and sometimes they take 8, just depending on the ability or the availability, of the still. 11 is the final plat. The final plat shall be prepared in accordance with the applicable state survey requirements, Montana Subdivision Platting Act survey requirements, and the county subdivision regulations. So you have the final plat here signed by our examining land surveyor, as well as the surveyor. Number 12. Covenants. So these, number 12 is concerning the covenants. This subdivision, the Meadows Phase 2, will adhere to the same covenants as Meadows Phase 1. However, they did specify these commission-required covenants I'm going to go over, so that's in that packet.
In what now?
In these covenants
Yeah,
here.
what's the difference?
Phase 2 will adhere to these commission-required covenants that I'm going to read over.
Oh, okay.
So, because for phase one, they were slightly different, so. In any case, the book and page reference to the restrictive covenants filed with the county clerk and recorder shall be indicated on the face of the final plat. In addition, restrictive covenants, revocable or alterable only with the consent of the Board of County Commissioners, shall be placed upon the property and shall provide for the following. A. Notification of the potential health risk from radon concentrations and that such risk can be evaluated through soil tests and mitigated through radon abatement techniques incorporated into structures. B. A notification that all dwelling units within the subdivision should be constructed to specifications which meet or exceed equivalent provisions in the applicable state building code for this seismic zone, which is Zone 3. C. A notification that lots in this subdivision may be subject to impact fees if in place prior to lot sales. D. Any additional replacement or relocated utility line shall be installed underground in accordance with county subdivision regulations unless otherwise determined by the utility provided. E. Any exterior lighting shall be directed downward to minimize visibility beyond the property lines. F. A waiver of the right to protest to join a special district for the purpose of providing community water and/or wastewater treatment system improvements and/or maintenance. G. A restrictive covenant binding the landowner, any heirs, successors, and assigns, and all future owners of property within the subdivision, agreeing therein to hold Broadwater County harmless and indemnify Broadwater County from all claims, demands, obligations, suits, causes of action, damages, and liability, including the county's costs and attorney's fees, arising in any manner whatsoever out of or relating to the existence, use, operation, repair, and/or maintenance of the following. Subitem 1, earthquake fault zone and any seismic activity, and number 2, water availability. H, notification of the presence of agricultural operations in the vicinity. I, each lot shall be maintained in a clean, attractive, and weed-free manner. Noxious weeds must be pulled, sprayed, or cut prior to seed maturity. J, a prohibition of the storage of foods, garbage, or continuous feeding of domestic pets outdoors or other activities that create an attractive nuisance for wildlife species. Hay or alfalfa storage and feeding are not prohibited where livestock are permitted. K, all cats and dogs must be restrained, penned, or otherwise under the control of their owner at all times. L, a prohibition of the raising, confinement, and/or keeping of livestock on all lots. M, address numbers shall be clearly marked at the driveway entrance to each lot and be easily identified from the road. N, a waiver of the right to protest joining a rural improvement or maintenance district for the purpose of road maintenance, mosquito control, or equitably funding parks and maintenance of parks. O, future owners shall be given notice of the close proximity to the airport influence zone. Condition number 13, coming on. Prior to the filing of the final plat, the following improvements shall be installed or otherwise guaranteed. Roads, which you've seen the paperwork on that. B, any necessary improvements required by the stormwater drainage plan, weed management plan, or approach permit. You've seen those documents. C, utilities abutting and available to each lot, electrical and telephone shall be underground. And so this is simply a photo showing that that power is in, and it's actually been installed for quite some time now. And D, road identification signs and traffic signs. And again, I'm telling you on the record that those are not installed, but that's of no fault of the developer. They should be here literally any day. Number 14, prior to filing the final plat, the applicant shall provide proof that all taxes and special assessments assessed and levied on the property are paid for the current tax year, including any past delinquencies. And this is simply a copy of the paid tax bill. And 14B, provide documentation, an abstract of title or platting certificate, showing that the applicant is the lawful owner of the property with the apparent authority to subdivide the same, showing the names of lien holders or claimants of record and the written consent to the subdivision by the owners of the land, if other than the applicant, and any lien holders or claimants of record against the land. So this is simply showing that Brad and Double C Ranch are indeed the owners of the property.
So Nicole, as a final plat, what we can do is just look at anything that was imposed during the preliminary plat to now. We can't do anything going back.
That's correct.
Since none of us was here when preliminary plat was done, which seems really odd, was there anything brought up, do you have any notes of what the previous commission brought up with this particular subdivision?
No. And I can tell you, this was one of the easier developments to look at, and I think it's because of phase one. Phase one is already there. This is on the edge of Brad's
field there, and which is why he's been requesting these extensions. I mean, he's been actively able to produce from that field. However, it's time to finalize, and just because he finalizes does not mean he has to stop farming. He can farm it forever with these lots in place. But no, to answer your question, there's nothing that was brought up, nothing that I have notes on that there were any concerns from 11 years ago.
All right. In that case, it looks like everything's been done. I will move to grant final plat to Meadows Phase 2 subdivision, major subdivision.
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the final plat, subdivision 2 of Meadows. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same.
And there should be 4 copies there. If you would use my special pen, please, and sign in the appropriate location on all 4.
Congratulations, Brad.
It took a while.
Yes, ma'am.
Here's a couple extra so
Oh,
they
super.
can keep.
Keep going, thank you. You're so smart like that. Here's a couple extra if you want to pass them around that way, or if you just want to. While you're signing, I have a county board appointment I need to bring forward to you. I don't know if this is the appropriate time. I know it's a standing item on your agenda, but. Oh, and I lied to you. It looks like, is there 5 copies or is that last one? No, that last one is blank.
Do you want us to sign it just for
Right,
fun?
just for fun. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Now I'll bring this up to you this afternoon. That's okay.
Here's this for ya.
Beautiful, thank you.
And can we hear the board appointment now, Mike, since
Yes.
Nicole is
Okay.
here?
Super, so I have a request for a non-voting member for the trust board. Came forward from Mike Harvey.
I will move to approve Mike Harvey as a non-voting member for the Broadwater County Trust Board for initial term of 1 year.
Has this been approved or brought up to the trust board? I see you got your hand up there.
Steve?
When you get to a point of discussion, the trust board brought that forward, and we would like Mike appointed
Okay.
to that.
Thank you.
Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded to add Mike Harvey to the Canyon Ferry Trust Board as a non-voting member. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same, motion carries.
Thank you. I will bring you a letter to
Oh.
sign later. I'm sorry that I didn't have that typed up already.
Okay, we'll move on to Mary Hendrickson, Public Works Supervisor.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I was on the agenda for the interlocal, but we're not quite finished reviewing that yet, so we can move that to next week. And I just wanted to give you an update on the Toston Dam Road project repairs. Those activities commenced last week. We have BSC and our road department crew out there. We removed about 4,500 cubic yards of material from the southern hillside above the road. And it was taken down the road to Leonard Lambop's property, where it'll be stored They're for up to 5 years. I don't think it'll be that long, but that was the agreement that we had with Leonard. And the road has been opened. So right now, Toston Dam Road is open today. And they're not gonna have any work, they're not gonna do any work there today, because they were concerned about some of the big rocks and boulders that they pulled out of there from the hillside last week, and they're concerned that they'll encounter that in the subgrade. So Sean Higley, our consulting engineer, met with BSC this morning, and they determined that if we ran into those big rocks, and these are rocks that can't be moved by the equipment that we have, so they'll just leave them in place. And they'll go ahead and reconstruct according to the design that we have. The material that they are pulling out of the road for that will actually be taken to Lambot's property also. I was confused about that earlier today. And they'll resume work tomorrow, and barring any unforeseen circumstances, they should be done by Friday. So, do you have any questions on that?
I saw it from across the river. I see
Okay.
it working there.
All right. Yep. Yep, I'm gonna go down there this morning, take a drive and look at things before they start tearing the road apart again, so.
So now is traffic going up to the dam now, or is it still closed? Traffic is
No,
going.
traffic is going, but the road will be closed tomorrow, beginning again tomorrow, so that they can do the excavation and install the geogrid and the material, so.
So this other material that they're pulling out, is that gonna be stored also?
It's gonna be stored also, yes. And it may be,
How much material are we gonna end up with?
probably less than 5,500 cubic yards. And that is material that we can use elsewhere. We do have some work to do on building up the roads down, Muddy Lane,
Lone Mountain.
and yeah. So that's our plan, is to use that material that we're pulling out, that we pulled out, to raise the grade in those areas that were flooded this spring, so. Yes, do you have any questions on that at all?
That was a good project, I
Okay.
think, for, not only was it an emergency, but you brought in partners
Yes.
with that, and I really appreciate that.
Yes,
It's
yes,
good for everybody.
yes, it is, thank you, yes.
It should be pretty good material, that shale off that hillside.
I think so,
I know
first,
just down from it, I've hauled there before, and that's pretty good stuff
yeah,
there.
for subgrade, for what we need to do, it'll be great, yep, it'll be great, so, all right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mary.
So we'll move on to the trust board grant applications, website, contract with Mia Whitfield, trail research decision.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you.
Okay. These are the things that the trust board has passed and approved funding-wise. There's 5 items here. First one is $15,000 for a used search and rescue boat. And then I'll read them all and then we'll go down and break through them. But, and then $1,500 for establishment of a trust board website. We found we're not communicating very well with the public, and we're sitting on $3.751 million, so, of which we have the spending authority for about $1.2 million. So we're in very good shape. We went from no money at all to being able to bring that up to a fair amount of money. We've got a lot of things pending, but these are a few of them we've got right now. Expansion of Mia's contract. Oh gosh, the last time we hired Mia and we brought her in, and that's where the county ended up with the ball field, the golf course, 10 acres of land, the trap ranges. So what we're planning on expanding her abilities and do that again for some additional land. Also, we would like to expand that contract, and it will end up being 2 contracts. And that's to employ Mia with a hike-bike direction. The new governor is very pro hike-bike, and there may be some funding available. We'd like to expand that to an attachment potentially to the bridge and give us a hike-bike access. We've got a hike-bike path, a gravel one across the bridge now. If we could connect the Indian Creek Campground with that, we could really expand on that. But we want to get her involved in that and use her expertise. So that's 2 or 3. The 4 is we're looking at a gosh, I'm not sure everybody's aware. There used to be a Canyon Ferry or a Missouri River ferry, and it's now covered up by Canyon Ferry Lake. But the Missouri River ferry ran at the juncture of Cactus Lane and Hahn Lane. It went north at that point, I think about 2.5 miles, and then went and crossed the river. We'd like to look into that, research that, spend some money on it, find out where it is, what it entails. We just need money to start that process. If we elect to do it, there'll be a lot of public review on that. It's adjacent to the Galsagori property. It'll cross probably some Bureau of Rec land, but that is an old established county road. We paid for it. We had studies done on that a number of years ago. So we're looking at that one. We'd like some money to start that review. The hike-bike path, the paved one out by Broadwater Ford, and that is used a lot. And we'd like to look at that and how to expand on that in a paved fashion for more usage. We've got a lot of people using it. Maybe if we had a better network, we'd get additional use. So we really like that idea. So that's what we've got today. Questions?
No, I think they're great projects. You guys do really great work for the community.
You know, we've got a really good board. We really do. There's a lot of discussion and stuff, but we've become a little bit political, and it's only because we have a lot of money. And we don't like being political. That's why there were 2 boards established, so one would be political and one wouldn't. And we're getting to be a little bit political, and we don't like that. But,
I got a question. If you could explain a contract with Great Western, and supposedly the trust board is going to pay for it.
you know, we have these are potential things coming forward that have not come before us yet. We only meet quarterly, and that's a little bit difficult for the public and for us, but you know, we had no money for so long, there was hardly anything ever came up. So what we did is we gather information. So the potential things coming up are the swimming pool needs help. We resurfaced the tennis courts, gosh, I think 10 years ago. Apparently they need resurfaced again. So and these are all just things we're hearing and have not come before us. An announcer's box at the football field. The Booster Club's got money, but they need a little bit of help to get over the top. And then this study for the rec board that has not come before us yet. So it's when we meet again, we may see any or all of those.
So if any work's been done on this, there's no money there to cover this, is that right?
Not from the trust board, no.
And that is pending, it's coming, just had to go through the channels.
Okay.
So right now, it's just being reviewed, and then it's gonna be sent to you,
Okay.
so, yeah.
So if there's been anything done, where's the money coming from to pay for it?
That's above my pay grade.
Has work been done on this project?
Sorry, you were doing it, about to get there.
Has there been any work done on this project?
There has been, the National Park Service required through this project with MIA that the contracts would be updated because they used to be, the ball club, the golf course and rod and gun club had their contracts with the city of Townsend. Because of how the process worked out, we worked with the city and created the recreation board through MIA, 2 county, 2 city, 1 at large. So the National Park Service said, okay, so one of the things you guys need to do is update those contracts. They can no longer be a contract with the city alone. They have to be concessionaire contracts, and they have to be with the county. We also have to wrap them into our insurance. And so what we did is we worked with Jerry Grubens, who has worked with us multiple times in the past, and he's actually the one carrying us through this project or process because Mia said she didn't have experience or expertise in writing concessionaire contracts. So we have those, they're also being reviewed, and yeah, so that's kind of where we're at right
Has it
now.
been reviewed by the county attorney?
Not yet, but that's the next step. So,
So in other words, this signed contract is void with Great Western.
This is the bill from Great Western for a contract amount of $24,350.
yeah.
And there's a bill here for $3,138.
And that's for the meetings Jerry's come to so far for the rec board. And again, we'll have that grant, so that'll all be covered. That was a piece of the paperwork that Steve called and said, hey, why don't we go ahead and streamline this? You guys send in a grant application for the contract, and then we can follow that process. That's the one you signed, and I think it's on your desk, Nicole?
Correct.
So that will be coming to you guys, I would imagine, very, very shortly. Yeah.
So my point, at this point, that contract's void. If they're starting work on it, where's that money coming from? I'm not putting you on the spot.
Yep.
I'm just laying it out there.
So as far as the search and rescue boat, you want us to go through these piece by piece and
Yes.
in motion for approval? I'm aware of what you guys are working on with that. I think it's an exceptional plan. So I will move.
There's
That-
3 copies of the
Oh,
grant
okay.
from Search and Rescue.
I will
If you have
move
it.
to support the trust board's support of the search and rescue grant for a boat for the river for $15,000.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the $15,000 search and rescue for the used river boat. All in favor, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same, motion carries.
So Steve, I wonder if I can ask you about item number 2. We have increased Nicole's hours from part-time to full-time, 32 hours a week to 40. And one of the things that she's going to be doing is updating our community website, townsendmt.com. Would you be agreeable to working with Nicole to actually have a page on the community website under the government page, specifically for the trust board?
I'd like to be an addendum to it, but I'd like to have our own standing one, just because we are such a large entity now, and we need to be accessible. We find we're not accessible. The public struggles getting to us. And so I'd like to have a standing one and then attach it to yours, and we'll certainly work with Nicole. I mean, that's,
We could perhaps do a link, but keep you under the same language as our website. My only thinking with that is the upkeep. If you go with a website designer, one of the things that happens, and a lot of people don't realize until you pay the money to get a website designed, is upkeep. Often laymen don't have the skills to upkeep, so you've got to have that person come back in, and it becomes a continuing price tag.
we've looked into that, and we have not made any commitments, but we've discussed a web designer that will train Debbie. She will train with the web designer, and then Debbie will be able to update our website in-house. So we won't have to go out and hire and get that reoccurring cost. we pay for her way too much already, but it's, we'll add that to her.
Every meeting. Every
But
meeting.
we've discussed that and to ensure we don't get into that trap. But
Okay. Could I ask that we table that and just have you guys communicate with Nicole on how we could maybe marry the two, just to, what I'm
Yeah.
concerned with is, do you have an estimate of how many hours that will be per
Steve.
month?
Sorry about that, 10 o'clock last night.
I feel like the trust board handle, it seems like they got a handle on it, I think that's their project, I should say. And the control of where that money goes, so I think it's strictly up to, for you guys to take care of. If that sounds right.
yes,
The estimate is $940 for setup, for domain hosting, even a simple logo design, because we don't really have one.
Would you use the community swoop, the Broadwater swoop?
We haven't gotten that far.
I would request that too, since it's Broadwater County Trust Board,
Makes
that you
sense.
would logo on with the rest of the community. So,
And as far as an estimate on my time, I have no idea.
As if I'm wrong, that trust money isn't just Broadwater County, it goes all the way up the Missouri River drainage in parts of the Madison Jefferson, doesn't it?
actually, our funding is strictly Broadwater County.
Oh, okay.
We limited ours to Broadwater County. The big trust, the $20 million trust, which I don't know how big that is today, that is the whole entire drainage.
Okay.
Is that an FWP?
Managed, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
so, the logo design, logo creation, the 3 revisions is gonna be about $245. Since we already have the whole plan for the swoop done, that could be a savings of $240. And then as far as the domain name and website hosting, that's $150 a year, roughly. So that would offset that, I guess, for almost 2 years. I like the idea very much. I'm pro websites, I'm pro Facebook as far as getting the word out for this kind of thing. But since we already have a plan, I would like to see us marry a bit more rather than, I've been trying to break down silos for a good number of years now. Each department, each board doing their own thing individual of the other entities is not as efficient, in my opinion. And so what I would really like to see is there a way to maybe marry this into what we already have and make what we already have better? More people coming to it. You can still have your own domain name so that people, when they Google Trust Board for Broadwater County, come up to your website, but it's still connected to townsendmt.com. And then that way we can have, Debbie can still do the work, but it should be less hours, I would think. Then a new website also saves us about $1,000 in getting it newly developed as a standalone.
Rather than postponing this, as we've shown on our past track record, we're very efficient and we generate a lot of money. We're good to the public and we work well with the county. So go ahead, my suggestions, go ahead and approve it. We're not gonna waste any money. You know we don't waste money. So go ahead and approve it. We'll work with the county on it.
Okay.
Well, I go along with that, but I still say it's your game. The trust not, I keep pointing at you.
No, not at all.
The trust board.
That's why we get the big bucks.
You're right.
I will move to authorize $1,500 or less for the establishment of a trust website, provided the trust board continue to work with Nicole and use the Broadwater County swoop as the logo. Is that agreeable?
Yeah, I'll second that. Is that,
Yeah,
Motion's been made and second to approve $1,500 or less for the establishment of a trust website with ties to the county site. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same. Motion carries.
And Steve, I'm not saying that you have to be under Townsend MT with my motion. you could have your own site, just link it to townsendmt.com.
We wanna do that.
But work with Nicole so that we have sites that look like they're connected.
Absolutely, and I think that swoop's a good idea. I've gotta get approval from my board to do that, but that's non-controversial, that should work.
All right.
That's my only copy of that.
It's okay.
We will get you more copies.
Mia Whitfield has done a spectacular job for us so far. I would move to expand Whitfield's contract to include BLM and hike bike funds, to include hiking bridge across the Missouri River north of town. And I'm also going to include in the motion research and review of the hike path for Silos Campground area, specifically the Missouri Ferry Crossing.
I'll second that.
Motion been made and second to expand Mia Whitfield's contract to handle hike and bike funds and the Missouri River crossing north of town. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same, motion carried.
Question on the floor.
Yes, Tim?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, on this, part number 4, 3 and 4, it, maybe the question's for Mr. McCullough, but are we at a stage, or do we have a time frame on looking at when we're gonna be looking at how much money out of the trust is gonna be spent on these paths and its expansion, as far as, you know, because we're talking possibly $1 million bridge to get across the river, a pretty expensive project last I heard, and so I'm just kind of curious if we have any timelines, or any process that people can be aware of,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Our intent on that is to get into research and review so we can get answers to those, Tim. That's, we don't know what the money is, we're not looking for money to spend in that direction at this time, just to research and find out what it would cost.
Perfect, thank you.
And for the last one, we do have Matt West as a non-voting member of the Recreation Board, and you know his passion for trails.
Yep.
I would ask that you engage also with the Recreation Board. We have a grant that we lost this year, but Nicole talked to the grant coordinator, the grant specialist, and she gave Nicole a whole bunch of instructions on how to make the grant better. The last one this year was not written by Nicole. It was written by somebody else. So I'm very excited about what maybe more money we could get into leverage with yours.
Yeah.
So that's not an instruction, it's just a request.
No, no, perfect, yeah.
Thank you. So I will move to give you our blessing for research and review of funding to expand paved hiking areas around town, and including the bridge options.
I'll second it.
Motion been made and seconded to research and review of funding to expand paved hiking area around town. Is there any comment? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
None. All opposed, same, motion carried.
One final thing I forgot to mention is we have so many floaters and actually commercial fishermen working the lake there, the river now, that the access off, the access, of course, they're using upriver areas like York Island and things like that. They're working those areas and it works very well. They can't get out. Once they hit the bridge, it's pretty awkward. It's dry on the south side and fairly swift on the north. But we're gonna look at how that can be expanded on to make it more accessible for the public. We've lost a boy over there, gosh, I think in the late 70s, early 80s there, under that bridge, and we don't wanna have that happen again. So we wanna make that safety and accessible there, but there's private ground and public ground.
In the last 30, 40 years, that river's really changed course through there.
It has, yeah. That's substantially.